Good morning, people. Back to making videos. Been a long hiatus. This is a video that Adam Mockler is warning us about something real dangerous. It's happening. This is what these people really want, folks. These white supremacists, white racists. And now this is the Trump administration. They're doing something that is done. That's happening in Europe by people on the right, far right, the Nazis, far now other like far right groups in Europe that are doing. I don't know the government's not doing this, but far right people in Europe. But this is even worse. This is the U.S. government doing this, advocating this, and this is more. This is even worse. At least the government's there or not. It's basically the parties, the right wing parties are doing this. But this is disturbing. See what the Muckler says.
Authoritarian rhetoric, spin this into a broader national emergency that they can use as a pretext to mobilize more National Guard members.
See what he says, folks. Let's start it from the beginning, kind of.
Admitted their effed up end goal for an authoritarian United States. So, less than 24 hours after two National Guard members were tragically shot in the head in Washington, D.C., one passed away, one is still fighting for his life in critical condition. Less than 24 hours after, this administration tries to leverage this as an opportunity to use more authoritarian rhetoric, spin this into a broader national emergency that they can use as a pretext to mobilize more National Guard members. Keep in mind, those National Guard members shouldn't have been there in the first place. These were 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds who were told that if they sign up, they get a little bit extra cash and they get to help their hometown if there is a natural disaster of some sort of emergency throughout the state. Never in this was that you have to sign up and then be transferred over to DC to basically act as a police officer. This is a 20-year-old who did not have the training of a police officer, but I digress. Donald Trump is using this as an opportunity to mobilize more 20-year-olds into areas that they didn't grow up in to act as faux police officers. Well, this administration's authoritarian rhetoric got to such a point where they are now admitting that their end goal is something called remigration. This is very serious, very dangerous, and stems from a far right group in Europe that we will talk about in just one moment. The official Homeland Security account on Twitter, not some random troll, not some random far right person. It's not Elon Musk. This is the official Department of Homeland Security government account. They tweeted out these words. This is very important. Quote, the stakes have never been higher, and the goal has never been more clear. Remigration now. Now you may be asking, what is this term, remigration? It sounds rather innocuous on its face, but it is incredibly effed up, authoritarian, anti-American. It strips constitutional rights away, it strips human dignity away, and it's disgusting. It says remigration is a European far-right concept of ethnic cleansing via the mass deportation of non-white minority populations, especially immigrants, and sometimes including those born in Europe and holding European citizenship, to their place of racial ancestry. So deporting people to their place of racial ancestry if they're not white. Originating in Europe, the concept has spread to the United States and other countries, and it is popular, especially within the identitarian movement. Some proponents of remigration suggest excluding some persons with non-European backgrounds. We're going to visit this in just one second and talk more about this, but let's go back to what the Department of Homeland Security is posting. This has been pushed by Twitter trolls for a while. The farthest of far-right people on Twitter have been pushing this, but now they are.
This is the U.S. government advocating this, folks. See the Homeland Security .dhs.gov. They're advocating this, not just some fringe group. It's totally dangerous. Wow. Oh, it's disturbing.
Pushing a form of remigration that would necessitate stripping constitutional rights and due process away from all non-white citizens of the United States. This is coming from the Homeland Security account, by the way. And either people aren't paying attention or the mainstream media isn't covering this. I personally think a lot of the mainstream media anchors don't fully understand what remigration fully is. They can read this Wikipedia entry, but I've been in these online circles, not participating in them, but my job is being online in politics. So I've seen these online circles where they push this type of far right rhetoric because I track it, I pay attention to it, I read what they say, and it is some dark, dark stuff. Now, before we go on to these far right groups in Europe, let me just point out what's happening in the United States. This is not a United States that I want to live in, where we have masked men hopping out of cars. This is some crazy, crazy stuff. If you are vaguely Republican or you voted for Trump, which a lot of people who watch the show do, it's fine. It doesn't matter how you voted. Or if you are a conservative or a far right MAGA Republican, no matter where you lie on the political spectrum, nowhere in America should there be masked men who don't identify themselves, who refuse to show their faces, hopping out of cars and trying to grab American citizens. Watch this clip. Hey, brother. What's going on? What's up? What's up? What's up, man?
This sounds like a black dude.
I don't know what they own.
This sounds like a black dude, folks. And he's going after, these guys are just going after him, trying to pick him up, or I don't know, for some reason.
You know, I got cameras. Y'all tweaking. You got the right to what?
I mean, what?
Y'all got the right to what? I got cameras. They are legitimately chasing this guy down. This guy is a U.S. citizen, and he's going on a walk in his neighborhood, a nice neighborhood, lovely. Well, it's kind of a wet day out, but it looks like otherwise a nice day to go on a walk. And he's being chased down by guys in masks. This is crazy. So we already have authoritarianism at our doorstep here, knocking on the door, saying we are going to grab you, and then the DHS Gov decides to escalate. This is some crazy shit. So a lot of these far right people, the people in this administration, people like Stephen Miller, they believe that America is based on identity or being white, when that is not true. America is based on some foundational ideas. America is based on governing ourselves, individual liberty, thinking freely, democracy, choosing your own destiny, meritocracy. There's a lot of...
Was it? Maybe it was founded by that. Wasn't really founded by that? Not really. But, yeah. Supposed to stand for that now, I guess. But it wasn't... Yeah. Wasn't really founded on that idea. Only for certain people it was.
A lot of stuff with democracy in America that is beautiful. None of it was ever just simply being white. Let's watch this. This guy from the UK laying out his view for what remigration is and isn't. This gives
I guess you're this.
I do not care if these
Let's
people...
go back. He's saying about white. Isn't taking the consideration of white privilege and all this stuff. I mean, you know, there's slavery after that, redlining. Not just black people, the other stuff they did to other people of color. I mean, America's done, so back then it wasn't. See, it was founded by whatever he said, justice and meritocracy, and rights, civil rights. There's rights, freedom of speech. I mean, freedom of movement, but wasn't founded on that. It was for certain people. It was for certain people back then. Let's say, but now it's supposed to live up to the ideals. But it's gone back to how that was really founded. I mean, apparently. And this guy is gonna explain something. You know, Europe. What I said about these right-wing groups in Europe. I mean, far right. They just doing see the Trump is just now they're mimicking these groups, I say, or but this is like a real move, like a movement worldwide. This thing here, I mean, fully white supremacy. I mean, huh. People talk about Putin, but Putin's not. These guys are worse than Putin. I mean, I think the Russians don't know. They don't like Nazis, anyways. I mean, he has them in prison. Putin has, but he also has leftists in the prison too. So that's another thing. Anyways, I digress. Let's go back.
Came over illegally. I do not care if they came over legally. I do not care if they were born here. I do not care if their grandparents were born here. These people have to leave. This is not their land. This is ours, and we will not tolerate it. So remigration, what is it? To simplify, remigration is the act and or process of returning immigrants to their country of origin. Now, there are a number of people and organisations that will tell you remigration is only deporting the illegal immigrants and the foreign criminals and voluntary repatriation. That is a lie. That is not what remigration is. Remigration is reversing our demographic decline by any means necessary. There is no person in this country that does not belong here that has the right to demographically replace us. We will not tolerate that under any circumstances.
Under any circumstance. He says later on that it's going to be violent. It is not going to be peaceful whatsoever. Then Donald Trump makes a post essentially endorsing this crazy ideology. He wrote his long, long True Social on Thanksgiving that honestly read more like Stephen Miller wrote it. He writes about a bunch of stuff, calls Tim Walz retarded, but then at one point he says, I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries. This is a big part that we're going to talk about. He says, I'm going to terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal emissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States.
Remember, Jamel Hill called him a racist long time ago. She used to work for ESPN, and she was canned eventually for that. Huh. Think of what do we say about that now? Was she right? I mean, she wasn't fired right away, but eventually they let her go. I mean, but that incident didn't. That really spawned the means to get her fired. But this guy is so despicable. I'm gonna read Sleepy Joe. What is he writing? Look, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, remove anyone who is not an asset to the United States. What do you mean by that? Who is capable of loving our country? So if you disagree with that, translate to if you disagree with him. He says, or incapable of loving our country and all for benefits, federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalized migrants who undermine domestic tranquility. Oh, it's garbage. See what he means by if you disagree with him, then he says about loving our country. If you disagree with them, that's what he means in his mind to me. And this is all report for national. Look at this. Security risks or non combined with Western civilization. What do you mean by these? This is all garbage. Screw you. Total fascist, total racist. Sorry.
States, or is incapable of loving our country End all
immigration
federal
function.
benefits and subsidies to
Unfit.
non-citizens of our country.
Total
Denaturalize migrants who
should
undermine.
be the 25th Amendment, folks. It's gotta be. He gotta be out of office. He's gonna do damage. These idiots won't do nothing. These Republicans, they could take him out. I guess the cabinet could, but these guys are just terrible. They just want power. They could take him out. 25th Amendment. He's gonna cause damage before he leaves. He may not. He's gonna. I make a prediction now, folks. This guy's not gonna leave. He's gonna try and stay, and that might. By then, he might have this. That's when you're gonna have the civil war.
Domestic tranquility and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto-pen approval process. Only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. Sarah Longwell from the Bulwark says, sit with this for a second. Trump is talking about taking away citizenship for naturalized citizens who, by some totally arbitrary definition, quote unquote, undermine domestic tranquility. So a naturalized parent or spouse of a U.S. born citizen who is critical of Trump could be threatened if he deems that they undermine domestic tranquility. Everything he says is also just contradictory. He says he's going to deport and denaturalize people who also are not a net asset to the United States. But immigrants are almost always, by definition, net assets to the United States because they're not taking in welfare. Oftentimes, they are younger people who are working, contributing taxes, and not taking in any welfare. But then he says he is going to end all federal benefits and subsidies to non citizens, which there really aren't any to non citizens. So you're going to remove anybody who is taking in more than they are producing, but then you're going to remove their ability to take in anything. So they're all going to be necessarily producing more than they take in. Very, very contradictory. While all of this is happening, and while Donald Trump is causing a fuss about this, he then posted this insane post where he pardons somebody and tries to bury the lead. I want you to pay attention to this. He said, if Tito Esfero wins for president of Honduras because the United States has so much confidence in him, his policies, and what he will do, we will be...
I'm not gonna do that. This drug knock, the guy that I think Biden arrested, the former president of Honduras was arrested in 2021, and he has connections with the cartel, so I think he's arrested. He's not in power. He's in jail now, and Trump wants to pardon him. And then the current president, I think it's a woman. I think she's I think I'm not. Yeah, I think she's a woman. In the Socialist Party or Left Wing Party, he's against that. And the election, there's another. I guess there's a right wing party. And Trump supports that. This other guy. So he's gonna support them. If he wins, he's gonna support them, the right wing guy. If not, he's gonna go after the current president of Honduras. Actually, look that up. But anyways, I'm not gonna do. That's not the main point. For this, what else he has here? I'm gonna forward this part. I want to talk about that. Is he still talking about this? Yeah, he's talking about this.
In 2022,
Okay, folks.
he agreed for their own.
And that's it, folks. That's the big thing now. Oh, he did talk about here. Let's see what he says here. He's talking about a definition of immigration.
Other than his own end goal. Now, what we see are people like Stephen Miller steering the ship for their own racist end goals. I mean, let's read a little bit about this more. Presented by its proponents as a remedy to mass migration and the perceived Islamization of Europe, remigration has increasingly become an integral policy position of the identitarian movement and other far-right political movements, and it's now being pushed by our own DHS Gov.
Okay, folks, I'm going to end it there. My phone's dying. But anyways, what do you think of this, folks? This is terrible. This guy. That's what they really want. Remigration. The the brown people, black people out of the country. It's crazy. Total fascist, total racist. It's beyond politics. It's like ethnic cleansing. I don't know. These people are totally despicable. They're bad people, folks. People behind him, not just Trump. The people behind him doing this. They're very evil people. So-called Heritage Front, and these people are the bad, evil folks, evil people. People behind him they're pushing this. Anyways, folks, what do you think of this? I'm out.